Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, let's dive right into this. Today, we're going on a truly fascinating journey together. Our goal? To demystify one of the most profoundly beautiful and honestly deeply analyzed passages in the entire Quran. It's known as the Light Verse. And to help us decode its incredibly rich, layered meaning, we're turning to an absolute masterwork of Islamic philosophy, Mishkat al-Anwar, written by the brilliant 12th century theologian and philosopher Imam Al-Ghazali. Now, just to give you a clear roadmap of where we're headed, we're going to systematically peel back the layers of ancient theology and universal psychology. We'll start with the verse of light itself, introduce Al-Ghazali and his Mishkat, explore the science of symbolism, map out the anatomy of the soul, literally decode the light, and finally, we'll look at the veils of darkness. Section 1. The verse of light, a profound celestial metaphor. So this verse, which is found in Surah An-Nur, kicks off with a sweeping cosmic statement. Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. But then almost immediately, it grounds this massive concept into a highly specific, super vivid metaphor. It reads, the example of his light is that of a niche in which there is a lamp. The lamp is in a glass. The glass looks like a brilliant star. It is lit by a blessed tree, the olive, which is neither Eastern nor Western. It's just incredibly poetic, right? But as we read through this striking imagery, the niche, the lamp, the glass shining like a brilliant star, and that blessed olive tree, I really want you to ponder something. What do these highly specific physical symbols actually mean in a spiritual context? Well, to really grasp this metaphor, our sources point out that we've got to first define the word nur, which translates to light. According to classical commentary, nur is defined as that which is bright and manifest on its own, and in turn makes other things bright and evident. So the absolute crucial takeaway here is that we aren't just talking about physical illumination. We're not talking about a lamp in your living room. Because the divine is completely free from physical form and materiality, the term light establishes a foundation of mystical reality. It points to the ultimate source of manifestation. It's the entity that literally brings all of existence out of the darkness of non-being and makes it evident. Moving on to Section 2, Al-Ghazali and the Mishkat, the Master Decoder. To actually crack the code of this verse, we're being guided by Imam Al-Ghazali through his famous esoteric treatise, Mishkat al-Anwar, which translates to the niche for lights. And our source material notes that this text offers a remarkably intimate glimpse into Ghazali's own inner life. He wrote this treatise specifically to expound upon the light verse, as well as a related concept known as the veils tradition. In this text, Ghazali takes us on this complex philosophical journey to demonstrate a really bold idea, that the divine is not merely the source of light in other lights, but rather the only real, actual light in all of existence. Everything else, it's simply borrowing its illumination. Section 3. The science of symbolism, connecting the outward and inward. Now, what's really interesting about this is exactly how Ghazali views the nature of reality in text. He develops this methodology where symbols in the Quran aren't just literary metaphors. Instead, he argues there's a real mystical nexus between the symbol and the thing being symbolized. Essentially, every single object on earth has a correlative in the unseen spiritual world. He divides this into the zahir, which is the outward text or the literal letter of the law, and the batin, the inward or mystical meaning. And Ghazali makes a crucial deduction right here. He insists that both the outward sign and the inward meaning carry equal permanent validity. He's providing a philosophical framework where a seeker must faithfully maintain the outward physical practices of the law while simultaneously grasping their hidden inward spiritual reality. That brings us to Section 4, the anatomy of the soul, the human receptacle. Ghazali explains that to truly understand the light, we've got to first understand the human receptacle that actually receives it. So he maps out the human soul into 5 distinct faculties, or spirits, progressing hierarchically. First up is the sensory spirit. These are our basic earthly senses, what we see, touch, and hear. Second is the imaginative spirit, which records and processes all those sensory inputs. Third is the intellectual spirit, basically the faculty of reason that apprehends concepts way beyond the physical. Fourth is the ratiocinative spirit, which extracts logical conclusions from those concepts. And finally, number 5 is the transcendental prophetic spirit. This is the highest level of spiritual awareness, reserved for prophets and highly awakened individuals, allowing them to apprehend divine truths directly. This exact psychological hierarchy is the key Ghazali uses to interpret the physical objects in the Quranic verse. And here we are at Section 5, Decoding the Light, the Matrix of Symbols. Okay, this is the aha moment we've been building toward. Here is the cipher, fully revealed. Applying his psychological framework and echoing classical scholars like Ubay bin Ka'b and Ibn Abbas, Ghazali shows us that these physical symbols are actually a map of the anatomy of a believer's faith. The niche in the wall, that represents the human chest. The glass inside it, that represents the heart. The lamp glowing brightly within the glass represents the light of prophethood or the faith residing in that heart. And the olive oil that fuels the lamp, wow, that represents the natural, inherent instinct for truth placed in the human soul right at birth. So you see, the light verse isn't describing a physical room at all. It's detailing exactly how divine guidance perfectly interacts with human consciousness. And this brilliantly illustrates a core theological concept derived from our sources. The verse contains this incredibly striking phrase regarding the olive oil. Its oil is about to emit light even though the fire has not touched it. That pure olive oil represents human nature's innate readiness to accept divine truth. The commentary explains that this natural nur, this light of guidance, is bestowed upon every single individual by default at birth. It's an instinctual capability to recognize truth, so incredibly pure that it practically glows with understanding before even being taught or touched by the fire of formal revelation. When that inherent nature finally meets external divine revelation, it literally becomes light upon light. Finally, Section 6, the veils of darkness, the ultimate reality. In the Mishkat, Ghazali explores what's known as the veils tradition. This is a concept stating that the ultimate reality is obscured from creation by 70,000 veils of light and darkness. He categorizes humanity into three broad groups based on what veils them. Now, impartially speaking, Ghazali describes the first group as those veiled by pure darkness, people completely disconnected from spiritual reality. The second group is veiled by mixed light and darkness. This group is kind of stuck in those lower faculties we discussed earlier, relying solely on their senses, their imagination, or their basic intellect, and mistaking those tools for the ultimate truth itself. And the third group consists of those veiled by pure light. These are folks who have transcended earthly darkness, but are still blinded by the overwhelming majesty of the divine, stopping just short of grasping the absolute unified reality. To really emphasize the importance of this inner light, the commentary contrasts the verse of light with a passage that follows shortly after, famously known as the darkness verse. It describes the state of those who reject this inner guidance as being like layers of darkness in a vast, deep sea overwhelmed by a wave, above which there's another wave, above which there are clouds. It states that when someone puts out their hand in this state, they can hardly even see it. This intense, heavy imagery represents a total loss of that natural inner nur or olive oil we talked about. It powerfully illustrates that without nurturing that inherent capacity for truth, human perception becomes completely submerged in absolute, suffocating darkness. We've journeyed all the way from a simple niche in a wall to the layered anatomy of the human soul and out to the 70,000 veils shaping the entire cosmos. So, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought derived directly from Al-Ghazali's work. If our entire existence, our senses, our intellect, our imagination, is filtered through these veils of light and darkness, what truly separates your own perception from the ultimate reality? Take some time to reflect on your own inward and outward understanding of the world. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep seeking the light.